Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being the show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season finale of Batwoman. A great season finale. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, we're picking up in the aftermath of the last episode. Marcus ended up getting access to the Batcave and using that. Well, first and foremost, we see that he's picking up where the Joker left off. Whatever it was, at the time we didn't know it, whatever it was the Joker ended up telling him all those years ago, he's basically enacting that plan. I mean, it's like, as Alice kind of put it, he has like the biggest man crush on the Joker. So, once again, he wants to be just like the Joker, if not be better. I mean, that's why he was so excited to be able to take over the Batcave. And he uses that whole situation to broadcast everywhere, like his plan is to expose Batwoman's name, her true identity, put it out there for everyone to find out. It's like, right, I'm going to do it in 5 hours, counting down the clock. But its real plan was to basically rain acid on the entire city. It is interesting the person who ended up revealing all this is Alice, because Alice heard some of the story from Marcus last episode, but now this time she ends up hearing whispers from other people. In particular, she's like she heard it from the way she's referencing a riddle and stuff like that. It's got to be Riddler. But the question is, like, is it actually Riddler who gave her the information, or did she hear it from other people who heard it from Riddler? I'm curious. Because I'm also like, yeah, if the Riddler's there, you're like, how you feel about the fact that your daughter's dead? She's been dead for a while, too. I'm curious how you feel about that. Does he know? You think he would? Maybe they didn't have the best relationship. I mean, obviously, a lot of villains and their children don't have the best relationship. Look at Cluemaster and Stephanie. They don't have the best relationship. Obviously, she helped take him down and everything, so I'm curious. But nevertheless, I did like the fact that the way Marcus was able to do what he did was because basically he used what essentially is the system that, I guess, Bruce typically has this system in most continuities. Like, obviously, they kind of utilized it a bit in the Dark Knight, or was it the Dark Knight Rises? They ended up utilizing it. Lucius wasn't too happy about it and stuff like that. The system that basically lets you hijack everything is meant to be like a last-minute resort in case like we have to get like an SOS out to the entire city, like this case where it's like a ton of people are out in the open and they could all get brutally murdered. And it's kind of interesting and very petty because the Joker's like, well, one of his reasons, based on what Alice said, based on what she learned from the Riddler, is like, well, maybe the Riddler or maybe indirectly from the Riddler. Like I said, depending on whether she actually heard it from him. Because she did talk to a few people, so it could have been like oh, I heard this from the Riddler, or I heard it straight from the Riddler's mouth after talking to a couple people. Whatever the case may be, semantics. I'm leaning more towards she heard it from the Riddler, but I'm saying that gives them the wiggle room to be like, no, she didn't actually hear it from the Riddler. I don't know if they've actually talked about whether or not he actually is locked up. The last time they really talked about him was like when Tommy was like, yeah, I went to the Riddler to find out Bruce's identity. Bruce was actually Batman. I think that's the last time they really talked about him in that capacity, but regardless. Aside from all that, the fact is he wants to make the city just have just as many scars as he does, like just as disfigured as him, so that's kind of like one of his reasons. But the other one is like, cool, he wants to terrorize a city that dares like rally behind the bat symbol, you know? So it's interesting, and Marcus wants to kind of do that as well, because it was the Joker's like final great laid plan that he never got to enact before Batman stopped them. So why not kind of go out on a big note, finish what the Joker was unable to? That would kind of solidify your position in history and stuff like that. Because even later on, he's saying that his point is that by doing this, he'll make like half the city will get melted, but the other half won't. You know, and they'll always kind of remember. It'll be kind of something for the history books, essentially. So. And at first, like, obviously, Ryan was mainly concerned because it was like, right, crap, he's going to announce my identity to the world, which is the last thing we need, so, and even Jada's like, all right, she ends up hooking, like, Luke up with some of the tech he needs to kind of make this happen, which I'm like, I love that he's even like, wow, this makes, like, the stuff in the Batcave antiquated. I'm curious if the stuff in the Batcave is kind of slightly older because the last person to really fully update everything was Lucius, but I was like, that was a while back, so probably not. I guess it's like, right, when you have probably the almost unlimited a budget that Jada does, and she probably has access to the right people, like, Luke probably has to keep all that low-key, because it's like, yeah, probably get some technology here and there, but you can't draw too much attention, and people are like, what are you using this for? So probably some of that equipment in the Batcave might be a tiny bit antiquated. Still powerful than most other things, but probably antiquated in some regards, at least to the technology that Jada was kind of hooking him up with. So at the same time, I touched on it a little bit with the Alice thing, but that scene with her and Mary was actually very heartbreaking, because you never get, like, you've had moments of seeing her like that, but like this is the lowest we've ever seen Alice, and she's just like, I want to get out of my own head. And you know, Mary's like, okay, there's a place in Switzerland you can go, they can try and help you with like childhood trauma. She's like, no more cells, get me out, I want to get out of my own head, even to the point she's trying to electrocute herself just to get rid of it all. She's just tired of being Alice. And Mary came begging the Bat team. She's like, you guys said that you would listen to me, you apologized for not listening to my opinion before, this is what I want. Alice, like, I'm not going to forget everything she did. She killed my mom. The first time her and Sophie crossed paths, she threw Sophie off a building. She's caused a lot of problems. The Wonderland gang is responsible for Ryan's mom's death, but it's like, at the end of the day, like, she deserves a second chance, you know? Because, and then it's the thing, at the end of the day, she's just as much a victim of that day as Marcus was. Marcus is a victim of the Joker. If it wasn't for the Joker, none of this stuff would have transpired, and Beth wouldn't be Alice right now. So, it's like, we're willing to give Marcus a second chance, but are you willing to do the same thing for Alice? And I think it's interesting, when Ryan went to Alice, you would think that's when Alice would have put her sympathy, like, oh, like, try to make Ryan feel more sympathetic. She didn't. She was kind of gloating and kind of like saying all the stuff, like the douchebag stuff. I'm like, why don't you be vulnerable with her like you were with Mary? Because I guess it's a little bit of a different situation, because it's like, no, I can't show weakness in front of someone, like, because her and Mary are family, and it's also like, right, they've had their connection recently, so I think she felt better about being vulnerable in front of her rather than being vulnerable in front of Ryan. But it's like, yeah, she was so cocky and being like, oh, do you really want to, like, even if you save him, like, what's the guarantee? Like, I'm your safe bet, because you know who I'll go back to. You don't know who Marcus will be. Marcus might not accept you. That at the end of the day, all you've ever done, you went looking for your family because you're trying to find the people that love you. You're trying to find these people who love you, and who's to say they will accept you when this is all said and done, even if you help Marcus. You know, what if the brother underneath doesn't want anything to do with you? He said, to me, I'm a safe bet because you already know how I'll be. You know, I'm someone who will never love you. So, you know, like, it's not like you won't expect disappointment. You don't have to worry about disappointment with me, but is that a chance you're willing to take? Alice being very good at getting inside of her head, but it's like, right, at the end of the day, like, Alice was like, fine, you want me to say it? Fine, I don't deserve it. Because Alice kept trying to be like, yeah, she was the one who deserved it, but it's kind of like, so what are you going to do? So she ended up giving the buzzer over to Alice, which Jada wasn't too happy about, but now the fact is they know that he's planning on dropping acid on the entire city. It's like, well, what do we do? Like, how do we stop him? Jada actually works with them because she did so much. She did everything to protect her son ever since he was a child, and it didn't work out. She ended up failing. She's like, right, I'm going to take a page out of my daughter's book. I was going to say sister, my daughter's book, and I'm going to put the city first. So she ended up exposing some of like the complicated stuff with Marcus about like, oh yeah, like his dad's death and stuff like that, being suspicious. So now Wayne Enterprises being like, oh, I love how the board is so fickle. It's like, I mean, they're a large conglomerate organization, so there's no way they're going to be like, all right, this is going to make us look bad. We got rid of him immediately. Oh my God, Ryan Wilder. Oh yeah, she was like coerced into it. Yeah, like, you know, it's like, yeah, trying to save face. You know, it's like just like a big company would. So that helped. But I love that Marcus is like, you think that matters to me? Like, none of you guys are morons. None of you matter anymore. You know, it ticks him off a little bit, like losing. Like, losing is never a fun thing. You know, he tries to put on a smile and everything, but it's like, right, it just made him more motivated. Like, now I'm going to burn you suckers even more just because of everything, you know? It's like, no one likes to lose. And regardless of you don't care about their opinions anymore, you still had this laid out plan. I wonder, was he still going to make himself look like the hero at the end of all this? Or, you know, did he just go like, you know what, screw it. I'm assuming chaos. I don't have to, like, pretend anymore. I get to just fully be me, be nuts and crazy. So at the same time, they're trying to decide, like, well, how do we convince like most of Gotham to leave without causing a panic. It's like, well, we got to have something in the Batman trophies that could work. I love they reference like, right, there's Mad Hatter's hat, and then there was also I love it's like, yeah, like Mary was like, there's got to be something in there like Condiment King's gun. I'm like, what does Condiment King's gun do? Like in actuality, once again, my only experience with the character is I've heard his name. Plus, he pops up in the Harley Quinn cartoon talking mad shit to Kite Man. So I'm wondering, like, I wonder, does that, like, do the condiments, like ketchup and mustard, do they act like acid and stuff like that? I'm like, what did that gun actually do? I just can't believe, man, these low-tier villains getting the spotlight now. It's like, my boy Kite Man getting some love in Peacemaker, and now Condiment King's getting some too. I love it. It's just like, I love, like, these super low-tier people that I didn't even know existed in Batman canon until like a couple years ago, where like people were joking about it on like Collider Live, or like, wait, because like they had a whole like Christian like lost his mind being like, wait, there's Kite Man and Condiment. No, these can't be real villains, and they really are. But like I said, I think Kite Man's stock is going up, and it's like, no, I guess we got to give Condiment King something. Nevertheless, I'm going on a tangent, but I love that whole bit. I thought it was fascinating when they ultimately are able to get inside of the Wayne Enterprises, and they had to find something of the trophies to use, and they ended up using Penguin's umbrella, which I'm trying to think. Like, I feel like I remember that being a thing, like his umbrella being able to hypnotize people. I feel like that's something that's like, maybe that's a super, super classic Penguin thing, or maybe it's like a very old Penguin thing. Because I'm trying to think of like Penguin from like the Bruce Timm's animated series from the 90s. I'm like, did he have it then? Because it seems foreign to me, but it also seems familiar on some level. Like most versions of Penguin I've come across in more recent years haven't really used that, so I don't know. Because I don't think Penguin and Gotham ever used that. I mean, not unless they ever eventually got to that after the time skip. But I'm like I said, it seems familiar. Like, did God? I was trying to remember, because I felt like Tim Burton might have used those in like his Batman movie. Was it Batman Returns? Like, I want to say, but maybe that's me just, I've not seen either one of them in such a long time, but especially that one too, so I'm like, I don't remember. I remember bits and pieces, but I'm trying to remember, did he have a hypnotizing umbrella? Regardless. Like I said, maybe I'm thinking I've come across that before in Penguin-related stuff, but maybe I never have. Either way, they're planning on using that to hypnotize the entire city, which it does work. I mean, especially when you're able to hack into the system and just like basically have everyone all around. It's like, yeah, get to somewhere safe, because it's up to them to try and stop this. But, you know, I also love that Mary was stuck doing the hacking and stuff like that, and it's like they kind of got their back and forth going on. And I love that Luke is like, I miss this, and she's like, what? And he was like, us. And she's like, me too. I'm like, I want you two to get together already. It's been bubbling since like season 1. This has been a thing. I want you two to get together already. I think you two would be so cute together. Obviously, this season they took some steps back after like everything, but I think going forward there could definitely be something on the horizon for them, especially after all of this. But in a classic, Bat and Joker fashion, we have, Ryan and Marcus going toe-to-toe. Obviously him saying all the insecurities, all the stuff that she says, that it's like, oh, you think like if you save me, mom's gonna take you back, she'll never love you, she's the same one that abandoned you, think that's gonna change anything? But it's like, oh, you're doing this for the city and stuff like that, but she's like, no, I'm doing this for my family. So, and I love that. That very much felt like a typical Bat fashion thing of doing something, just roll on top of someone, bam, punch, 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 punch. She's just, I want my brother back. Just give me my brother back. And in that moment, he's like, I'm sorry. I was like, well, noticing how the glass behind her is cracked afterwards, I'm like, he's going to kick her through that. And he's like, I'm sorry you believe that you could try and, like, save me or something. Kicks her out the window. Luckily, she grapples him and pulls him out, too. And luckily, with the parachute, they land it. But he still wasn't going to let her win. And I wasn't sure how this was going. And I was kind of worried. I was like, man, it's going to end with Marcus dying. Because if he dies, like, it's probably going to forever tarnish, like... I mean, granted, I think she's at the point where she realizes, like, right, Ryan did everything she could, but it still would be a little rough being like, okay. Because I thought, like, you know, she's like, I'm not going to let you go. I thought he's going to do the Jokerish thing and be like, oh, I'm going to force you to let me go. And just, like, it'd be my final laugh. Luckily, Alice, interestingly, shows up. Because of the conversation she had with Ryan. It's like, you and me and Mary all know you don't deserve this. Because there is another way. It's just you don't want to... This is the easy way for you. Because this, like, oh, you just get a buzzer, kind of erase everything. No, the hard way would be working through everything, coming to terms with everything. You want to just kind of make it all go away in a flash instead of putting in the hard work to actually make it happen. So... At the end of the day, she left it to Alice, and Alice shows up to give her the buzzer, and she's able to take Marcus down. So, luckily, when it is all said and done, it does, at the very least, appears that he's okay. I was like, I'm not really sure how this is all going to work out, whether or not this is all going to turn out okay or not. Like I said, I didn't even know if, like, they were just going to, like, sadly... especially because I referenced Batman Returns, like just the Batman, like was that what Tim Burton's Batman movie was just called, Batman? No, it's Batman '89. And that's specifically the title of it. Regardless, the Joker kind of died in a very similar fashion. That's what I was almost wondering, like, didn't he fall to his death? God, once again, it's been so long since I've seen those movies. I want to say he fell to his death, didn't he? So I was like, oh, like, kind of going for that a little bit, but no. I mean, there's no easy solution around that, because she did kind of put Marcus on blast, so it's like, cool, do you go back to covering it up, or do you make it so that Marcus kind of has to face, like, the genie was kind of open there, and even then, it's like, because even Ryan had said, like, right, you put yourself in this position, it's not just Marcus you're going to be putting in a very complicated position, her as well. So the conversation then becomes like, well, what does this look like? At the end of the day, he's back to normal. You know, she's like, how do you feel? He's like, I feel like I need my little sister. So they are a family of sorts, and it's like, it's nice to know she has that in her life. I think there's been conversations about wondering who would Ryan's father be. I think that's still an element to this. Man, they haven't talked enough about it to really go into it. Didn't they talk about the fact is he died either way? I don't remember if they really went... Do correct me in the comments down below. I don't remember if they really went into the ins and outs about her. Like, he might not be anyone significant, but you never know how they might play those cards and be like, no, he was so-and-so, connected through so-and-so. Like, you never know how those connections are always going to turn out, but... I'm just curious to see what the aftermath is for this family. Like, oh, you guys found each other, but it's like, what does life look like for Marcus going forward? Like... Once again, you know, after everything that he's done, like, because you don't just wipe the slate clean. I mean, Mary's the same way. Mary killed one person, but she was responsible for anyone that Poison Ivy kind of killed her. But, I mean, Montoya just kind of left with her. So it's like, no one kind of walked away from this season with their hands clean. Mary's just kind of moving past it because Alice is the one taking responsibility for killing that father. But I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know if Mary's just going to be able to walk away from that, and maybe neither can Marcus, considering all the death he's caused. So maybe his mom tries to get him some help, but that might trigger some stuff. I don't know. I think it's almost interesting, too, because Batman and Joker have always had their roundabout thing, and Ryan's been able to do something that Batman couldn't do. Like, Batman was never able to... I mean, maybe there's some continuity where he has, but more often than not, it never seems like the Joker ever got cured. I have to take that back. Technically, he got cured in Harley Quinn the cartoon. I legitimately forgot about that storyline element where he was just a normal dude with, like, a girlfriend and stepkids. But I think that's, like, the closest thing. Like, but, like, she was able to do that. Like, she was kind of able to save the Joker, especially someone who brought about making essentially a Joker. So I find that fascinating. But this episode also saw the Luke having to leave behind the AI from his father's. It was the only way to get complete control of the blimp after, like, the computers were shot and everything. But obviously, Luke has prepared himself for this because he finally became the hero without his father, and that was all he needed to kind of get out of his own head. And he tells his dad, like, but his dad's like, at the end of the day, he's like, I'm proud of you and your team. You and the Bat team have saved so many lives today. Luckily, they were able to move the blimp. They say, like, to a desolated area, which are also like, yeah, but the problem is someone's going to live there, and that's going to be an issue. But then later on, when news reports are like, oh, it's a good thing the Bat team did what they did, you're like, okay, so it is a part of town where no one was there, but as we see from the stinger at the end, either someone did live there and they got corrupted by all that acid gas, or it awoken something that was already buried there the entire time. Maybe it's like, cool, it was something that was sealed away there and maybe no one else knew about it. Maybe Bruce is the only one who knew about it, or maybe it was just something even he wasn't aware of. Was it something created in that moment? Was it already there? So many questions. I don't know what that thing was. We don't get a good enough look at it. Once again, comic book people are just like, you idiot, Michael. It's obviously this. If someone points it out to me, it's probably going to end up being something I have no idea about. But then if I'm going to feel extra stupid if it's something I'm like, oh my God, how did I not realize it was that? So we'll see. But obviously, we also have the continuation of the whole situation with Sophie and Ryan, because it's like, no, this is a serious thing. Like, because Sophie was like, I can't lose you, Ryan, and it's just like Ryan's kind of not used to like that being something like said in that regard, like, because I can't have you all doing anything crazy, so I need you to come back to me, which is very sweet. So looks like things are getting more serious and good on that front, which I love that Luke is like, oh, we're interrupting again. Like, this is going to keep happening, and they're like, most likely. So, but restoring kind of like, the case that had like Bruce's Martha's pearls in it. I thought that was kind of a nice touch, kind of getting everything back to normal. But it's like, right, always got to expect everything because it's Gotham where everything can go wild and crazy. So got to always be prepared for what's coming next. Speaking of that thing at the end, I feel so bad because like that recurring news lady, I don't think that was just her cameraman. I'm pretty sure that was her too. Got brutally murdered. Which, like, oh, that's kind of sad. Kind of a familiar face you've seen from time to time, just immediately gone now. It's like, oh, that's interesting. So that's going to be interesting to see what that ends up potentially being. Obviously, Alice ended up leaving. She said, like, she's got to go find herself. She's like, see you on the flip side. Even see her with the brown hair kind of being more Beth again, which I doubt it's the last we've seen of Alice. I mean, not unless it is a thing of, like, I don't see them doing that, but it could, once again, I never read up ahead of time whether or not actors are leaving or not. I mean, like I said, Nick just like left Legends of Tomorrow, at the very least as a series regular. Maybe Rachel, the actress who plays Alice, is doing the same thing, but I get the feeling like it might just be like she's still, I'm sure that's a storyline within itself of like, that's not all just going to go away. I wonder, will it also involve her potentially tracking down Kate too, because Kate's off looking for Bruce, so maybe that's a correlation there. Maybe not. I don't know. Have we seen the last of Alice? Maybe in a main, like, continuous capacity. Maybe she will get the help she needs to finally be Beth again and not Alice. So we'll have to wait and see. At the time of me recording this, it hasn't been confirmed whether or not Batwoman is coming back for season 4. I hope so, because I'd love to see where we go. Obviously, things are ending on obviously we had our stinger, so I was about to say, like, just like season 2 ended on a bit of a stinger, so did this one. So I'm curious to see what this new threat is that was kind of teased at the end. Once again, what the capacity we will be dealing with Alice. Like, will we be dealing with her Beth outside of Gotham? Will we not see her that much? What new threats or old threats might resurface in Gotham? What Ryan's life is like now, being, not only Batwoman, but also having her mom and her brother in the life, both of which know that she's Batwoman, things between her and Sophie, which we know what the future potentially holds for them because of Armageddon, because we got to peek 10 years into the future. So I'm just really curious to see how they kind of tackle that and how they include that in potentially season 4, and how that relationship continues to develop. Once again, is there going to be a Mary and Luke situation? as he, continues to expand his role as Batwing, what that looks like, the team dynamic going forward after everything they went through this season. It's definitely going to be interesting to see. So hopefully we are getting a season 4. Apparently, from what I was reading, it seems like at least a lot of the superhero shows apparently aren't 100% sure about whether or not they're getting new seasons. At least, this might have been something a while back, because obviously Legends doesn't know. I thought I saw something saying that Flash is getting a 9th season, and I thought I saw something saying that, like, Superman and Lois had already got renewed for a 3rd season. I think I glimpsed that somewhere. Don't take my word on it, so maybe only some of them are kind of up in the air right now. Because maybe the CW, because also the CW in its situation of, like, is it being sold? And even then, that'd take about a year, but that probably makes them wonder whether or not they want to re-up. And even if they don't, like, will some of this move over to HBO Max? Like, what that means? Like, I guess it also depends on, like, who ends up getting and acquiring the CW after all this. Conversations like that might be playing a role. I'm sure, like, it's also like typical TV conversations of, well, even if the CW wasn't in the CW situation, it is the thing of, well, ratings wise and stuff like that. So it all come back to money like any network thing. So, like I said, I'm hopeful for a season 4. I'd love to see what they'd have planned for us next season. But really, that's all I want to talk about. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.